Hello and welcome to the Backtracking episode proper for 3 Days Grace. We start with the band's debut album, 3 Days Grace. Released in 2003, it would come out through Jive Records and it was produced by Gavin Brown. So I covered a lot of the background for this one already, but I will add that this is the band's only album as a trio, as they didn't have Barry Stock with them at the time. With that said, let's move on to the album itself, which starts with the song Burn, and it's a pretty good sign of the band's sound at the time. There's some really stompy and grungy riffs with some heavy drumming to accompany that along. The lyrics are often personal, with themes of hatred, addiction and abuse going to really dark places at times, as you would expect from Adam Gontier. The performances are solid, with Adam himself adding a lot of emotional heft with his vocals and Neil being quite solid on the kit too. The production actually sounds pretty clean for the time, and Gavin does a good job mixing the dynamics together and adding a lot to the tone. The structure can be a bit repetitive, but it's got a solid sound that carries a steady, hard pace that hits more than it misses. My favourite song goes to Born Like This. 3 Days Grace's self-titled verse is full of emotional rawness, and it really finds its feet early, not just in terms of the style, but for the band as a whole. Next is the band's second album, 1X, released in 2006. It would again come out through Jive, and it was produced this time by Howard Benson. So their debut was a big success. They toured it to the nines, and along the way they would hire lead guitarist Barry Stock to become a quartet for this album. This album also has my first 3 Days Grace song in right, so woo for that. Anyway, the album starts with the ironically titled It's All Over, and already there's sort of a new dynamic to this one. The riffs have a new heaviness to them, adding more crunch with the drumming picking up quite heavily as well. The lyrics cover most of the same subjects, along with depression and suicide being added to make things a little bit darker. The performances are again really good, with Barry making a really good showing for his first time with the band, and Adam adds a lot more grit to his voice as well. The production is great, as you would expect from Howard Benson, who brings a lot out of the tone and adds some really good texture as well. The structuring is also really good, with songs blending better and showing some really good growth as it goes along. My favourite song goes to Over and Over. 1X is a good improvement on what came before, adding a bulkier sound while retaining their usually emotionally driven tone. Next is the band's third album, Life Starts Now, released in 2009. It was released through Jive and Zomba, and it was produced by Howard Benson again. So 1X blew up for the band, and they got to tour with Seether and Breaking Benjamin, not to mention several of the album's singles got quite big as well. They will get to recording and putting this album out in 2009. Instead, album starts with the song Bitter Taste, and it's already got a different tone to their previous work. The instrumentals are still quite heavy, but there's a bit more speed on them as well, and there's even some really good guitar solos this time around. The lyrics have a more positive lilt, with the themes of starting over and optimism being a welcome difference to their usual style. The performances are still really good, with everyone putting in more energy and showing a bit more maturity with their playing. The production is again quite solid, cleaning up well for a lot of it and making everything sound quite clear to hear as well. The structuring has a good sense of restraint to it, with the more positive tone actually giving way to more chances to experiment, which the band often take. My favourite song goes to Without You. Life Starts Now doesn't push the boat out too far, but the band do make an effort to improve, and they adopt the more positive tone in some really fun ways. Next is the band's fourth offering, Transit of Venus. Released in 2012, it would be their first for RCA, and it was produced by Don Gilmore. So once again, the band were busy touring. Life Starts Now got nominated for an award, they would switch labels, and this album was announced on the same day as Venus's transit around the sun, hence the album's name. Also, this is my first full album from 3 Days Grace, so yay! The album starts with the song Sign of the Times, and this is already different for the band in a lot of ways. It's got bigger sounding instrumental riffs and drums as well, and even some solid bass grooves when it counts. The lyrics are personal as usual, with the themes of heartbreak, anger and sadness being prominent, and they have some good resonance to them without being as whiny. The performances are among the band's best, with Adam belting it out on his last album with the band and Barry turning in a solid bit of guitar work too. The production is good too, with more electronic sounds and a refined delivery to it, and done such a good job managing the sound here. The structuring has a good wallop to it too, with each song feeling distinct and the growth and maturity on display is adamant and apparent. My favourite song goes to Misery Loves My Company. Transit of Venus is maybe the band's best album for me, showing growth and intelligence, and most of all, an ability to take risks that actually pay off wonderfully. Next is the band's fifth album, Human. Released in 2015, it came out through RCA and Warner, and it was produced by Gavin Brown. So there probably was touring between Transit of Venus and this, but the main story with this is that Adam Gontier would leave to focus on his health, making this the band's first album with current singer Matt Walsh. That album starts with the song Human Race, and the album is very different in a lot of ways once again. The instrumental work is a bit more repetitive, with more of a heavy and fast lean on the riffs and the drums being a bit more toned down. The lyrics focus on the usual 3 Days Grace themes of anger and addiction, but for some reason the emotion just isn't as believable to me. The performances are still decent, and Matt does his best, even if he lacks a lot of Adam's delivery and impact at times. The production actually kind of hurts this album a lot, as there's a lot of compression and it feels like there's just too much processing on the guitars especially. The structuring isn't too good either, with repetitive riffs and choruses and an often basic feeling thanks to the production. My favourite song goes to I Am Machine. I'm sure this album has good intentions, and Matt does do his best for his first outing with the band, but the album really suffers from a lack of anything new and everything just struggles to coalesce by the end. And finally we reach the band's sixth and most recent album, Outsider, released in 2018. It came with RCA and it was produced by Gavin Brown, Howard Benson and the band themselves. So the band once again did a bit of touring, mostly helped by Hailstorm, and they didn't really do much else that I could find, so we'll just move on to the album. The album starts with the song Right Left Wrong, and it already feels a bit lighter oddly. The riffs have a different tone, having a bit more melody behind them, but still thrashing it out when necessary. The lyrics have a more positive tone in things like mental health and love, and there's not as much repeating as last album, which is really good. The performances are a bit more improved, and Matt fits in a bit better with his older brother putting in some solid work on the bass especially. The production is a little bit better too, probably thanks to Howard and the band having a say this time around, making things a bit more clear without ever doing much. The structuring is improved as well, feeling a bit more sturdy and having a better sense of pacing and good loops in comparison to Human. My favourite song goes to Strange Days. Outsider is a vast improvement over Human, and while it still has some issues, it does a better job at working around them. And that is it, another big 6-album episode done of a band who I've always had a soft spot for. It's always good to go over old stuff from a band like this, and I do hope that they keep improving for next time. Speaking of next times, my next episode will be The Longest Johns, as requested by my good friend Alice. As for what's next from me, well, tonight I'll be doing my big Q&A stream as I wait for Super Hot Mind Control Delete to finish, because it's the 2.5 hour download thing and I can't really do anything to prevent it, so I'll be answering any and all questions, so if you're interested in something like that, come watch my Twitch. And also after that I'll be putting the PBW vs AVW parts up on my YouTube channel, so yeah, it's going to keep me quite busy, and probably an episode of Music of the Week tomorrow or Monday. I won't be able to get it done Sunday because it's my niece's birthday and, you know, I'm going to go and say hi and be a good uncle. And really, that's about it. That's all I can think of. Yeah, I may as well just do what I always do. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome.